You know the feeling. You're scrolling through the internet, maybe a little too late at night, and then you see it. It's some grainy, black and white security footage. And then, whoosh, a blurry, glowing shape just zips across the screen. And for a split second, your brain jumps to that one single conclusion. Wait, did I just see a ghost? It's such a primal reaction, right? But what if the truth isn't out there in the supernatural, but right here, hidden inside the technology itself?
Okay, so let's break this down and figure out what's really going on. We're going to start with those classic ghost videos. Then, we'll uncover the most common culprit, and trust me, it's not what you think, the infrared bug illusion. After that, we'll get into the invisible energies that can mess with our cameras. And then, things get a little crazy with the technology that can literally hack a camera to create fake images. And finally, we're going to turn the lens inward and look at the phantoms that are created by our very own minds.
So, let's just set the scene. These ghost videos, they almost always look the same, don't they? You've got this blurry, kind of transparent shape, even when the rest of the picture is perfectly sharp. It moves at what seems like an impossible speed, and the weirdest part, especially in night vision footage, is that it seems to glow with its own light. Now, these aren't just random details. They are the actual clues we need to solve this whole mystery.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What are we really looking at here? Is it some kind of glitch in the matrix, a visitor from another dimension, or is it something way more grounded in everyday science and tech? Before we start calling the ghost hunters, let's put on our detective hats for a minute and actually look at the evidence.
All right, get ready for the big reveal, because the #1 cause for these ghostly sightings is something you've probably swatted away from your face 1,000,000 times. See, the culprit isn't some big, mysterious thing way off in the background. Nope. It's something incredibly small and incredibly close to the camera.
So how in the world does a tiny spider or a gnat turn into this terrifying phantom? Well, it's kind of like a perfect storm of three things happening all at once. First, the bug is literally millimeters from the lens. Because it's so close, any tiny little movement it makes looks like it's soaring across the yard at lightning speed. Second, the camera's focus is set way in the background, on the room or the yard, right? So the bug is completely out of focus, which gives it that classic blurry see-through look. And finally, you've got the glow. Most security cameras use infrared light for night vision, light that's totally invisible to our eyes. That little bug gets blasted with this super concentrated beam, and the reflection is so bright it just completely overexposes the sensor, creating that intense white glow.
Now, what's really fascinating here is you can see the technology problem in action. A normal camera sensor just can't handle that massive difference between the super bright bug and the dark background. The technical term for this is a lack of dynamic range. It just gives up and shows a featureless white blob. But newer cameras with what's called wide dynamic range, or WDR, they solve this. They basically take multiple pictures at once, one for the dark parts, one for the bright parts, and merge them together. And look at the result. A camera with WDR can tone down that glowing bug and show you exactly what it is. Just an insect.
Okay, so we've kind of debunked the bug, but what about all those weird things on camera that you just can't explain away with the moth? This is where things get even more interesting. We're now moving into the world of invisible forces, things like electromagnetic fields and heat energy that can also interfere with our tech and create their own kind of phantoms.
Some paranormal investigators have actually collected some pretty compelling data showing a link between really high EMF and weird stuff showing up in photos. The theory goes that an intense electromagnetic field can actually mess with a digital camera's processor, causing it to just create bizarre images that weren't really there in the first place.
And this isn't just some vague idea, either. In one specific investigation, researchers recorded EMF readings that peaked at over 250 milligauss. And just to be clear, that is an incredibly high reading. And it happened at the exact moment these greenish orb-like shapes started appearing in their photos. Now, this doesn't prove it was a ghost, for sure, but it does suggest that extreme conditions in our environment can make our technology act in some really, really strange ways.
Okay, so what happens if we switch from a camera that sees light to one that sees heat? Thermal cameras are a huge deal on ghost hunting shows, right? They let you see temperature. But they have their own set of problems that can easily fool you into thinking you're seeing something paranormal.
Yeah, the thing you have to get about thermal cameras is that they can be tricked pretty easily. They can pick up a heat signature from a reflection in a mirror or a piece of glass, making you think there's a warm body standing there when there's not. They can also pick up on residual heat, the faint warmth left behind after a person has been standing in a spot for a while, which can look like a spooky human-shaped figure. And of course, something as simple as a cold draft from a leaky window can show up as a paranormal cold spot.
So, Everything we've talked about up to now has been an accident. Bugs, weird energy fields, reflections. But what if someone could create a ghost on your camera on purpose? This next part, I gotta tell you, is genuinely chilling. We're moving away from glitches and into the world of malicious attacks. This all leads us to a concept called intentional electromagnetic interference, or IEMI for short. What researchers figured out is that by designing very specific electromagnetic waves, they can actually target a camera's sensor and, well, basically write new pixels directly onto the image it's capturing. They gave this attack a fittingly spooky name, Ghost Shot.
So here's the before shot. This is our baseline. Just a totally normal picture from a security camera. You can see it's a peaceful little forest scene. This is what the camera is actually seeing with its physical lens. Just keep this image in your head.
And now look at this. See that fire? Yeah, it's not real. It doesn't exist in that forest at all. Using that ghost shot technique, researchers were able to aim invisible electromagnetic waves at the camera and create the image of a fire directly on the sensor itself. The camera's lens never saw this. The device was essentially being forced to hallucinate an image that was being beamed into it. I mean, the implications of this are just staggering. Think about it. An attack like this could be used to plant fake evidence. It could trigger a fire alarm in a huge building when there's no fire. It could even make a self-driving car's computer see an obstacle that isn't really there. This is an attack that fools not just our eyes, but the machine's eyes too.
Okay, so we've seen how cameras can be tricked by bugs, by energy, and even by hackers. But for this last section, we're going to turn away from all the external technology and look at the most complex image processor in the known universe, the human brain. Because, sometimes the ghost isn't in the machine at all, it's in our own minds. Believe it or not, this quote is the actual title of a medical research paper, which just perfectly sets the tone. It speaks to that deep, primal fear of the unknown, which is right at the heart of experiences like sleep paralysis, where people report waking up totally frozen and seeing terrifying figures in their own bedroom. So what is sleep paralysis? It's this bizarre state where your brain wakes up, but your body's still in sleep mode, so you're literally paralyzed. That alone is terrifying, right? But it's often paired with these incredibly vivid and scary hallucinations. Most often the feeling that there's an intruder in the room, or actually seeing these so-called shadow people. So why do so many people from all over the world see the same faceless, shadowy figures? Well, one of the leading neuroscientific ideas is that it's basically our brain taking a shortcut. In that weird, half-awake state, the part of your brain that processes shapes and faces is getting all these mixed-up signals. To save energy, it just fills in the gaps with a default template, a basic, faceless human shape. It's a ghost created not by a spirit, but by our brain's own incredibly efficient and sometimes terrifying operating system. And all of this brings us to one last big question. We started this whole journey with a simple bug on a camera lens, and we ended it deep inside the wiring of the human brain. We've seen how our technology can create illusions, and how our own biology can do the exact same thing. It really makes you wonder, if the machines we build to see for us and the very brains we use to understand the world can both be so easily fooled, how can we ever be sure what's truly real? It's definitely something to think about.